Interview 000047. When 50 Cent first met Eminem, the world didn't realize they were witnessing the start of one of hip-hop's most unbreakable bonds. Two men from completely different worlds. One from the gritty streets of Southside Jamaica, Queens, and the other from the battle-scarred neighborhoods of Detroit, somehow found a connection that went beyond music, fame, and money. But behind the platinum records, the legendary collabs, and the global tours, there was a story that few ever understood. A story about loyalty, survival, and brotherhood in an industry where betrayal is more common than friendship. Eminem didn't just sign 50 Cent. He saved him. And 50 never forgot that. Through bullets, beefs, and broken trust, they stood by each other when almost everyone else turned their backs. Now, years later, 50 Cent is finally opening up, revealing the truth about what that bond really meant, and why his friendship with Eminem is deeper than anyone could have imagined. Because in a world where rappers switch sides for clout and fame, 50 and M proved something timeless, that real loyalty still exists. This isn't just another story about two rappers. This is about family, built not by blood but by respect. And what 50 just revealed about that bond will make you see both of them in a whole new light. Before the fame, before the platinum plaques, before the global tours, there was just Curtis Jackson, a young man from Southside Jamaica, Queens, fighting to survive. His music was raw, his voice was fearless, and his story was too real for the industry to ignore or to handle. 50 Cent wasn't just another rapper chasing a deal. He was a survivor of a world that tried to silence him, a man who had already faced death and refused to back down. In 2000, 50 Cent's career took a dark turn. After releasing his controversial track How to Rob, where he jokingly listed how he'd rob almost every big name in rap, he suddenly found himself blacklisted. Labels pulled back, radio stopped playing his music, and just when things seemed impossible, tragedy struck. He was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's home. Most thought he'd never come back. The industry had already moved on, but destiny had other plans. Miles away in Detroit, a young rapper named Eminem had just exploded onto the global stage. His raw emotion, unmatched lyricism, and rebellious energy had turned him into a phenomenon. Yet behind the fame, Eminem saw through the noise. He recognized real struggle when he heard it. One day, a CD landed in his hands. It was 50 Cent's mixtape, Guess Who's Back. Eminem couldn't stop listening. The hunger, the pain, the authenticity, it reminded him of his own story. He took the tape straight to Dr. Dre, saying, "Yo, you gotta hear this guy." Dre listened, nodded, and just said one word: sign him. That decision changed hip-hop forever. When Eminem first met 50, there wasn't any superstar ego, no fake industry handshake, just respect. M told him, "You remind me of me." It was one of the highest compliments a rapper could ever get, especially coming from someone who had just become the voice of a generation. For 50, that moment wasn't just about getting signed to Shady Aftermath. It was about validation. After being shot, betrayed, and left behind, someone finally believed in him again. He once said, "M was the only one who saw what I could be." He didn't care about the rumors, he just saw the music. When they dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003, the world changed overnight. The album went 9x platinum, and suddenly, the kid who'd almost died was now one of the biggest stars on the planet. But 50 never forgot who made it possible. He always credits Eminem, not just for the deal, but for giving him a second chance at life. In interviews, you can hear the gratitude in his voice. "If it wasn't for M," 50 said once, "I wouldn't be here." Period. Their chemistry was undeniable. Whether it was Patiently Waiting, Don't Push Me, or Gatman and Robin, you could feel their energy, two men who came from pain, using music to heal. But what made their bond special wasn't just their success. It was the loyalty behind it. In an industry built on competition and betrayal, Eminem and 50 refused to turn on each other. Even when people tried to start rumors, pit them against each other, or bring race and money into the conversation, they stood solid. There's a famous story 50 once told about how after a show, Eminem gave him a watch worth over $100,000. 50 tried to refuse it, but M said, "Nah, you earned this. You changed my life too." That's the kind of bond they had. Mutual respect, not business. Behind the cameras, Eminem helped 50 navigate fame, keeping him grounded when the world started to treat him like a god. He warned him about fake friends, about people who would only come around for clout or money. And 50 listened. Their friendship wasn't loud. They didn't need to post pictures or make a big show of it. It was quiet, powerful, and real, because both men knew what it felt like to lose everything, and what it took to build it back. To the outside world, they were just two rap giants. But to each other, they were brothers, bound by pain, loyalty, and the understanding that they both survived things most people couldn't. And while fame brought millions of fans, awards, and recognition, it also brought darkness. There were people who wanted to tear them apart, industry politics, jealousy, and personal demons waiting to surface. But 50 and Eminem were built differently. They didn't just share verses, they shared trust. And in hip-hop, that's rarer than gold. As 50 once said, "Everybody loves you when you're winning." But M? He was there when I was nothing. That's what made their bond unbreakable. And as the years went on, the world would see just how deep that loyalty ran. Even when fame, success, and controversy tried to test it. As fame hit like a tidal wave, both 50 Cent and Eminem found themselves in a world that looked nothing like the one they came from. Luxury cars, private jets, sold-out tours. On the surface, it looked like they'd made it. But deep inside, both men were fighting silent battles the public never saw. For Eminem, it was the war within, addiction, depression, and the crushing weight of fame. For 50 Cent, it was survival in a different form, betrayal, jealousy, and enemies that fame itself created. And through all of it, their brotherhood was about to face the ultimate test. When 50 dropped The Massacre in 2005, his dominance was undeniable. He had G-Unit on top of the charts, movies lined up, and a global brand that had made him a household name. But with success came enemies, from Ja Rule and Fat Joe to The Game, who publicly split from G-Unit and started throwing shots. The industry began whispering, 50's changed, he's too arrogant, he's burning bridges. But through the noise, one man stayed silent, Eminem. While everyone else picked sides, M stayed loyal. He knew 50's aggression came from the same place as his, pain. He once said in an interview, "People don't understand 50, he's been through hell. He reacts how he had to survive." That understanding was something only M could give. Because he'd lived it too. When the industry tried to turn M and 50 against each other, saying things like, "50's outshining Eminem now," or "M's not the same anymore," both men refused to bite the bait. Instead, 50 made sure everyone knew where he stood. In one interview, 50 said, "If you're talking bad about Eminem, don't talk to me. I owe that man everything." That kind of loyalty was rare, especially in an era where alliances shifted faster than trends. But while 50 was defending M publicly, behind the scenes, he could see his friend struggling. Eminem's addiction had spiraled, and by 2007, it almost took his life. The fame, the pressure, and the pain of losing his best friend Proof had broken him. During that dark period, 50 kept checking in on him. In one interview, he said quietly, "I'd call M, but he wouldn't always pick up. I just wanted him to know I was there." It wasn't about business anymore. It was about brotherhood. When M finally came back with Relapse in 2009, 50 was right there, standing beside him. It wasn't just a comeback for Eminem. It was proof that real ones don't walk away when things get hard. The two went back into the studio, recording new tracks, rebuilding that old magic. You could feel it in songs like Crack a Bottle and My Life years later, that same mix of respect and reflection. But what made their bond even stronger was how little they cared about industry politics. When other rappers tried to come for Eminem, whether it was Benzino, Machine Gun Kelly, or anyone else, 50 never stayed quiet. He defended M with the same fire he'd use in a beef of his own. On Instagram, in interviews, even in casual conversation, 50 made it clear, nobody touches M, period. It wasn't just loyalty, it was gratitude. Because deep down, 50 knew that in a business full of fake alliances, Eminem had given him something real, opportunity and respect when the world turned its back, and Eminem never forgot what 50 brought to the table either. He once said in an interview, "50's energy is unmatched. He's one of the smartest and toughest people I've ever met. When I signed him, I didn't just get an artist, I gained a brother." That bond wasn't built in boardrooms or contracts. It was built through pain, loss, and shared struggle. Two men who knew what it felt like to be counted out. As years went by, their friendship became less public, but never weaker. While the internet speculated that they'd drifted apart, those who really knew them understood that their connection didn't need to be on display to be real. When Eminem got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022, he made sure to thank 50 Cent personally, calling him one of the most important people in his journey. And when 50 won his Hollywood Walk of Fame star, Eminem was right there beside him, proud, quiet, and smiling. That moment spoke volumes. Because even after 2 decades, fame, drama, and millions of dollars later, they were still standing side by side. You see, real loyalty doesn't fade. It doesn't bend with public opinion. It doesn't change because of time or distance. And in an industry full of backstabbers, 50 and Eminem's friendship became a symbol, a rare example of what happens when 2 broken souls find family in each other. But what's even more powerful is what 50 later revealed about how Eminem changed his life forever, and what their friendship really meant when the cameras were off. Because for 50, it was never about fame. It was about something much deeper. And the truth? That's what he finally opened up about. As the years passed, 50 Cent and Eminem didn't need to prove their loyalty to anyone. The world had already seen what they built together, a legacy that redefined hip-hop, brotherhood, and resilience. But when 50 Cent finally spoke openly about their bond, fans realized it went far deeper than music. In interviews, podcasts, and public appearances, 50 has always been quick to give Eminem his flowers. But one particular moment stood out, when he said, "I think Eminem doesn't even understand what he did for me. He didn't just sign me, he saved me." That statement wasn't for headlines. It came from a man who'd lived through bullets, betrayal, and the kind of struggle most people can't imagine. 50 had been rejected, blacklisted, and literally left for dead. No label would touch him. Everyone saw him as too controversial, too dangerous, too unpredictable. But then came Eminem, someone who didn't see danger, only potential. When M signed him to Shady Aftermath, it wasn't just a career move. It was a lifeline. It gave 50 a second chance at life, at redemption, and at rewriting his story. 50 has said it many times. "If I hadn't met M, I don't think I'd be here today." It wasn't just about business. It was about trust. The kind of trust that's nearly impossible to find in the entertainment industry. Over time, 50 and M became each other's safe space. They understood each other's pain without having to explain it. Both men had been outsiders, misunderstood, underestimated, and attacked for simply being who they were. That shared experience became the foundation of something deeper than collaboration. It became family. Even their silence spoke volumes. In a world obsessed with clout, they never needed to parade their friendship on social media. They didn't have to do interviews together or constantly remind people of their connection. Their actions said it all. When 50 launched Power and expanded into film and television, Eminem quietly supported him from behind the scenes. When 50 executive produced the BMF series, he even invited M to make a cameo as White Boy Rick, a gesture that proved their respect, and bond was still alive and strong after decades. Behind every success, there was still mutual admiration. In one emotional moment during his Walk of Fame ceremony, 50 said, "I don't think my career would have been what it is without M. He's my guy. He's the reason I even got the shot." Eminem, standing right beside him, didn't say much, but you could see the pride in his eyes. He didn't need words. The loyalty between them was loud enough, and it's that same loyalty that made their bond legendary. Because while other artists fell out over money, contracts, and ego, 50 and Eminem remained connected through respect and honesty. They didn't always have to talk every day, but when it mattered, they showed up for each other. In an old interview, 50 revealed something powerful. "There was a time I felt alone in this game. People were switching sides, but M never did. He always stayed real with me. That's rare. Especially in hip-hop, where friendships often crumble the moment fame enters the picture. And that's what fans love about their story. It's not about 2 rich rappers bragging about their success. It's about 2 survivors who made it out of chaos and still held on to something real. Even to this day, 50 never misses a chance to defend Eminem. When people criticize M's music or question his relevance, 50 fires back without hesitation. He once said, "Anybody who disrespects M, they disrespect me too. That's brotherhood. Not PR, not a partnership, but genuine. Earned respect." And when you look at how 50 carries himself today, as a mogul, producer, and legend, you can still see Eminem's influence in his discipline and focus. The same way Eminem's career inspired a generation of rappers to speak their truth, 50's story inspired countless people to survive their circumstances. They are two sides of the same coin, one who turned pain into poetry, and the other who turned struggle into strategy. Together, they reshaped the meaning of loyalty in hip-hop. When 50 finally opened up about their bond, he said something that stuck with millions of fans around the world. "The world got to see me win. But what they don't know is, I only won because M believed in me when no one else would. That's not just gratitude. That's legacy. Because behind every chart-topping single, behind every platinum plaque, behind every sold-out tour, there's a story about two men who refused to give up on each other. Their friendship has become one of hip-hop's greatest love letters to loyalty. Reminder that real respect doesn't fade, no matter how much fame tries to twist it. And when you see 50 and Eminem today, laughing, joking, or simply standing side by side, you're not just looking at two rap icons. You're looking at two brothers who walked through fire and came out stronger. Cent and Eminem's bond is proof that sometimes the most powerful connections are built not through contracts or fame, but through faith, pain, and gratitude. It's the kind of story that doesn't just inspire hip-hop, it inspires humanity. Because at the end of the day, when 50 Cent says, "Eminem saved my life," he's not exaggerating, he's telling the truth. At the end of the day, what 50 Cent and Eminem share goes far beyond the music. It's not about hits, fame, or numbers. It's about two men who refuse to let the world define them. They came from nothing, fought through everything, and built a bond that money could never buy. In an industry filled with fake smiles and temporary loyalty, their story is a rare reminder that real ones still exist. So when 50 says Eminem saved his life, he's not just talking about his career, he's talking about faith. About that one person who saw light in him when everyone else saw darkness. That's the kind of loyalty that makes legends. And that's why this story hits deeper than any chart-topping single ever could. Because sometimes the greatest success isn't fame. It's finding someone who believes in you when you've stopped believing in yourself. If you felt this story, drop a "ow" in the comments. Let's give both 50 and M their flowers, while they can still smell them. And if you want more deep, real stories that pull back the curtain on hip-hop's biggest legends, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because this is just the beginning. The bond between 50 Cent and Eminem isn't just hip-hop history, it's a masterclass in loyalty. It's a masterclass in loyalty.